So let's talk Microsoft Teams panel. So that is the device we have outside the room. Available on the Neat Pad. Neat Pad also doubles up as the room controller. So you can use them both to essentially having the same hardware in stock. So you can convert one from a scheduler to a controller just by a factory reset. So you don't need to keep a spare device of each. You can have a spare device of just one. So one of the things by default when you get out of the box, so you can see here I've applied a wallpaper to it. So that's a new feature. But what we're able to do now is when we go into the settings, so you can walk up and reserve, you have the new QR code which allows internal people to your organization. So you need to be on the same tenant to reserve a room. So it looks in your calendar. Do you want to reserve that one? And then it'll reserve it and put a join button inside the room. So that's really cool. When we log into our device, we have our background which you can choose, LED settings. So these don't apply to the Neat devices. They only run red or for busy, green for available. So in our meeting settings, there are a few options here. So the first one, release room if no one checks in. So that's a really good option to have there. So you could say, okay, 10 minutes. If no one checks in, we release the room. So people walk down the corridor can find that space. Show meeting names. So again, if you've got a private space, you don't want to show that, you can do that here. But you can also do it in the Exchange mailbox as well. Show room equipment. So again, if you list some of these in Exchange, and I'll show you that in a second, it's handy to have all this information populated so people outside the room can see what's happening. You may have a secure room that you don't want people to walk up and do ad hoc reservations. So you can actually disable reservations on a room. So you can show that it's booked when it's free and busy, but you can disable ad hoc reservations on that. Allow reservation extensions. So this allows you to extend it from the manage button that's on the UI. So that allows you to extend it from there. It actually creates a new meeting. But don't worry about that because you're going to be in the same Teams meeting as you're currently in. And allow early checkout. That's a really useful one because that then allows you to free the room up if you've finished the meeting space. Next up, device pairing. Super important. You want to be able to interact between a panel and the device inside. So here, for example, I've got my Neat board inside the room and it's already found it. And it now asks me for the code. So I simply pop in the code. So this is a one-time pairing. And what it's doing is pairing the pad outside the room with the device inside the room. So now what you'll see, I've got check-in notifications at the top here. So when I'm due a meeting, I can come in and check in. However, because we're on MTR on Android, it actually auto-checks you in. So if I have, and I'll do this in a second now, I'll send it a meeting invite, you'll see that it will auto-check in. We also have max room occupancy notifications. So the devices do people count. So it will show outside the room when it's at capacity as well. So now we configure those settings. You can see we've got the reserve there. So now let's put a booking in. Just send the device an update. And here's a handy tip. You can actually swipe down on the panel and that will refresh it. You can see here I have the option to check in. So I can walk up, check in. The other way I can do things is by just joining the meeting. So I walk in and I hit join on the panel. This will then automatically bring the device into the call. And you see now on the panel, it's got manage. So it's already checked in. That's a really neat feature between the Teams user experience there. So you can see here my friends are in the room at the Teams panel outside the room. We have a notification, room at capacity. So I don't even need to enter the room to see that it's over capacity. There's not enough seats. I can go to a hot desking area or back to my desk or find another room to join the meeting from. And then in the room as well, at the top of the banner, you can see the room has reached capacity. So these are the capacities that are set in Exchange in your resource mailbox. So I'll show you where to set them as well shortly. So that's the way Teams panel works in conjunction with the Microsoft Teams room on Android inside the room. And then outside the room, I have that option to manage. I can either check out, I can't because I'm still on the call, or I can extend that room reservation as well. So you've got those options there. And then I've also got the option for the room equipment. So I can list this in Exchange and we'll jump to that in a second on what can be there. So that is then populated to the main screen. So you can see that it's got more at the bottom left. That will eventually change just to be the information on the room equipment. But you can actually add other applications. They're called line of business applications. So for example, Power Apps you can put on there. So within that Power App, you could put a form, for example, feedback survey, and report anything missing in the room or equipment damage or, quick thumbs up survey. You could do anything like that just to get some feedback on the room or the latest, bus shuttle train timetable. All that information could be done and put several different apps there. So there's space to deploy 5 apps plus the more button. And then you can go into a whole page of apps. So lots of options there on that one. So let's drop this call and let's bring up our browser and show you how you configure it all. So let's take a look at Teams Admin Center. What you can do to configure those Teams panels, you can go into your panels and then into your configuration profiles, and you can create a profile, for example. So there are some things you can do. So again, you can do that maintenance window on here. You can do the daily restarts. That's a section I forgot to show you. So that can be done from the profile, and you can turn these on centrally as well. So room equipment, reserve panel, QR code, etc. The only thing you can't do, you can enable a maximum occupancy, but you cannot do that pairing. That pairing has to be done on the device itself. Or, of course, if you've got Neat Pulse, you can do it fully remotely. So that's a nice bonus there. So they are some of the settings. And again, you can use your custom background, etc. On here as well. That's where it's controlled. Just remember, if you're doing your custom background, you're going to have to do one for each country stroke time zone, because that applies all the settings on there. Next up, let's look at Exchange. We go to the resource mailbox, and we'll just pick our Apple room, for example, and you can see the capacity. So how do you change that? You simply go to manage the mailbox, and we change that capacity there. So this capacity does take about 24 hours to change. So if you make a change, it's not instant. It does take a little while. And then we go to additional information, and then you can see that you can populate this information here, and this is then what's shown on that room information on there. This can all be done through PowerShell as well. So if you want to automate it and have it very simple, one command line when you create new mailboxes, if you want to do a bulk import or update, you can do it through PowerShell as well. So that's how you do configuration for these extra settings on Teams panels and get those capacity notifications. Any questions? Let me know.